Well, how you doing, guys? My name is Ace, and I've tried to do something different. I was asked, or whether or not I thought about having an explanation of how to build an e-commerce backend, and I'll try to get all the nitty-gritty details of explaining how, what does it mean, what is a backend, and all the silly stuff that normally you wouldn't think of as a front-end developer or as a junior developer. So first of all, what is the backend? Normally speaking, actually, you know what? Do I have GIMP? I don't have GIMP. Do I have Paint? Do I have any way to paint it? No, I don't have any way to paint it. Oh, it doesn't matter. So let's just say, for now, let's just patch up a project. So am I in English? Yes, I am. Okay, let's just patch up a project, and I'll do the schema like inside the project. So make dir. Let's just call it a project. CD project, and let's go inside and create the something.readme file. So I forgot how it's readme.md, right? No, it's md. It's md, right? Wait, I forgot. It's actually pretty important. Readme.md. Oh, it is. It's just md smaller case. Readme.md. With this like this. Readme. There we go. That's a market. So normally speaking, you would have a client. You would have the user, which is like a person. Let's just say it's my person. Look at it. It's like a sideway person. And then I would have the user go to have a request to the front end. So I'll just say it does it something like this. He have a request to my front end. And then my front end would usually do something, would have a request to my backend. And my backend would have a request to my DB. Okay? So we are mostly concentrating on this part right here. And just assume that I can write backend normally. Backend. So the user have a request from the front end to the backend to the DB. That's a big way. So for now, just to make it simple, we will not do any DB. We will not be concentrating on the front end or the user. We'll just be concentrating on the functionalities that the functions or the actions that the user can do inside the front end, and then we'll make sure that it will seep back to the backend. Normally speaking, and we talk in specifically of an e-commerce site. Again, my English is kind of shit. Sorry about that. My English writing is kind of bad. You know, very, very bad. So let's just, how do you write e-commerce? Something like that. Cool. And paste. Okay. Now, how does the backend should look and what the user can do? Let's just make it simple. If I'm talking about an e-commerce site and specifically talking about items, what specific things you can do about items? Well, you can get all the items with partial information. Get one item. Get some items with by filter. Get one item with all the information. With partial information. Okay, and then you can update an item. You can delete an item. And you can insert an item. Good. These specific things is what you can do about an item. And for now, let's just make it simple. I just say I don't have any database. So how are we going to save these pieces of information? For now, let's just save them on the runtime of Node.js and have post requests to sort of mimic what we're going to see. Okay. So first of all, git init. Git is when you're starting to create a project, it's very important to save the project somewhere inside a Git repository because it will help you a lot by, first of all, remembering what you did, second, track changes, 3, revert, and work with the team, and 4, we will work with the team. That's why you usually would have Git. That's very important. Okay. Next is I want to create it using TypeScript because I love TypeScript. So I need to, I'm also using p and npm. p and npm and npm are completely similar for the sake of these arguments. They're completely similar, except that p and npm is slightly faster. But it does not matter whatsoever if you're using p and npm init or npm init. It will do basically the same thing. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to have a dev script. This dev script will allow me to run my TypeScript project just as that. We still didn't say how it looks, but we'll get to it. So first of all, what are the things that I need to install? Well, I need to install Express. I need to install types of Express. I need to install TypeScript. I need to install TSX. If you don't know what TSX is, it's a really cool package. I'm going to explain about it later. And that's pretty much it, right? And that's how you can create a slim backend. Okay. Very slim backend. So let's just create the dev. So the TSX, the TSX was used to watch certain files. So I can, for example, watch an SRC file that uses TypeScript to run the TypeScript and just wait for it. That's how it is. Okay. But I didn't create the file yet, so let's just create it. I recommend creating it inside a source so you can easily convert it to a dist. And also you need to initialize the TypeScript itself. So TSC, or you can use p and npm, well, you can use multiple things. p and npm, TSC, init. Well, you can use also npx TSC init. That will also work. Okay, and it will create the entire configuration. What are the things that we need to note here? Well, first of all, the base URL should be the source. The target URL or the out URL, the out dir should be inside dist. So that means that if I'll compile this, it will just compile it to dist. Now, do I actually need it? Nope, not particularly. But it's just good practice to have. Also, I'm using the target with ES 2022 because I want some functionalities from 2022. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So now we're ready to build our e-commerce site. I have the main.js. Normally in the main.js, you want to define the crucial aspects of this project. Mainly right now, we have only one aspect, which is the server. And we know how to create it. So we're importing Express. Well, we need to import all the Express from Express. Okay, and then we need to start defining our app. Const app, which is our backend app. It's Express as a function. And now I need to say app.listen. And I want it to listen at port 3000. And when it's done, I want to console.log listening on port 3000. Listening on port 3000. Now, it's not the best way to write it like this, 3000 and 3000, but for now it just works. And also you can get the port like this. So no, let's just do it like this. The better practice is to use an environment variable, save the port inside an environment variable, and then use it along the way. Now, I recommend using the port this port here. So it says no overloading methods, but it does have an overloading method. I just see the callback. No, the callback to use a single port. No, it's fine. So I can use that, and you can use something like const, and I can use, when I'm defining the app, I want to define the port, which is usually, let's just say it's equal to 3000. I'll write it here. I'll delete this guy, and I'll write it like so. Again, not a preferable way. The most preferable way is to use template literals and to write it like so. Okay. Good. So now we have the port and the app listening on 3000. Now if I'm going to run it, run dev, which again will work for dev run dev. It's listening on 3000. Now, how do I get access to it? Well, usually it will be localhost 3000, but it cannot get. Why it cannot get? There is a song like that. Gotta get. Why doesn't it get? Because I haven't defined any get. And how would you define get? App.get. I want it in the root URL, and when you do get it, I want to define, well, I need to define a request and a response here. And I'll just say response.send gotten. Yes. Now, because we're using TSX, it also sort of auto watches, or did I do the watch? Did I use the watch syntax? I did. So it should watch it, and now it's gotten. So what did we essentially did here? Well, we created the backend, a server. What that it does, it just, you want to get a piece of information at localhost get or at the root URL, and then to pass along the string. Now requests will say to you all the pieces of information that you need to know about the request that came to the server. So for example, if I want to write here, let's just write here query params. Let's just say I want to say user equals to Sagi. Normally you wouldn't write it like this. There are plenty of ways to do it. So now I wanted to see the user that I've written here. So let's just from now delete it, and I wanted to return the user, currently the user. So the user equals to request dot. I want to say query, which is the query params, and I want to say dot user. X user and closer. Now it's again, and if I were to change the query params to anything else, it would update the same. So we've essentially created an endpoint, a completely useless endpoint, but an endpoint nevertheless that gets the query param from the backend, from the front end, or from the request, and bringing it back to me. Is this useful? Absolutely not. This is completely useless, but it's the way to start learning things. So that's how I get query params. What about if I want to create, well, I don't want anything to be in root. I want everything to be /item, and I want to get something very specific, but it cannot get item. Well, for that, we need to define the inner routing. Well, I can change this one to right here item. Just say I said items or item, which both will work fine. And it says on items, wait, and I forgot to place the slash on the beginning because it needs it. And it works again, but not everything should be here. And if my app will blow up with a lot of endpoints, this is not a very efficient way to put everything here. And also we didn't discuss about every single method that we had to do so far. So I remind you, we need to get all the items, some of the item, one of the item, insert, update, and delete an item. So that's not a very useful way to do it. What that you would normally do, you would define a router and a controller, and you'll pass on the router and the methods from the controller. So let's just do it simple. Okay, let's just go from the other way around. First, I need to, just to teach you about the router, let's just create an routes folder. And let's just say I want the items route. Now you've seen here me using the items route.ts. You don't have to use the route.ts, but I like it because it gives it brings explicitly it's a route. Okay, and then I'll write here const items route, which equals to route. And then I'm going to say export. You can do default, you can do anything you want, items route. So now I just say I leave that the way it was. I'll copy this, I'll put it here. I'll say item, and I'll just add user, and I'll put here item. Well, that should be the get. That should be the get, and I'm gonna items dot items route dot get. We don't need this anymore. And now we can do app.use /items route. Okay. So I did here a bunch of things. First of all, I've created a new route that's supposed to be for the items. And then I also created in the main I make the server use it only when it starts with /items. So when it starts with /items, it will do everything that it gets here normally. So it's when you do items /something, it should run this. And when you do just /, it will just run this. Whoops, this. Okay, let's give it a shot. First of all, let's see if the regular thing just show me user. It should just show me user. It does show me user. And if I write here items, it write here item and the thing because I've passed it along. Now it doesn't make sense to write here users, but it definitely makes sense for us to understand that this user is needed. Okay. It will be needed in the future, not necessarily in the query params, but that's how you normally use it. So you would have an app used for items, for categories, for basket, for whatever the user needs. But for now, let's just do items. Okay. So now I have the get of the item. There are another 4 things that we need to worry about, or at least 3, minimum 3, but the rest can be worried about. But now we know how to do routes. So first of all, now we need to define how we're going to get access to our database. When I'm saying database, I mean to our Node.js runtime, because we're going to save everything in an array. And also, how would an item look like? Let's have a look. So controller dot, I want to say items dot controller dot ts. Now again, writing here controller down is mainly a preference. You could have used it the same way you did. Anyone can use it the same way. So export. And now I'm going to have to look at the function that we've written down for ourselves to do. All of this needs to be here. I want to understand what needs to be done. So first of all, I wanted to get all the items with the partial information and insert an item and update an item and delete an item. But wait, how would you define an item? That's a tough thing to define. Well, not really, because if I'll do const, well, first of all, if you want to say define the type of an item, well, then I need to think, how does my e-commerce site should look? Well, it should have a name. The item should have a name, which should be a string. It should have a price, which should be a number. It should have, let's just say an image, which should be a string. And for now, let's just say that's that. And how would I save this information in the runtime? I'll write here const items, which is an item array. And that equals to, for now, we just say empty array. Okay. Now, let's define the controller. The controller should be well defined. We need all these functions and somehow have the ability to get a request and response and to convert it to controller, or just get whatever the controller says it needs to get. Okay. So the first thing I can do it in classes and I can do it in functions. Both ways are valid. Both ways can work. I go with functions though. Functions, and I want to say insert item. Okay. I'm back. So we need to a lot of things happened. And now I need to restart some of the things that I did. I don't have much time left. But for now, let's just say I'm doing the functionalities for the insert, for the update, for everything. Okay. So now I'm about to remove an item from my supposed database. So how would you remove an item? Well, I wish there was a convenient way to pop a specific item, or shift, or find, or flat, or like whatever. There is the ability to slice, but it does not help at all. You need to get the item and remove it completely. Can I just have? Don't I have items dot remove? Again, I have filters. Filters is fine, but it does not change the original array. Map, pop, fill, find, flat, join, keys, sum, sort, every, shift, slice, concat, reduce, splice, every entries, for each index, reverse, unshift. Insert a new, it's insert. Includes to find a copy within. Ooh, copy within. Returns the object after copying a section of the array identified by the start. Nope. Reduce right. Okay, I have nothing. JavaScript, you're just fantastic. Never mind. So now we need to remove the specific items from the specific item from the list. So to do that, what I'll need to do, and I'm doing it kind of manually here. So the manual stuff would be, I want items to be equals to items dot filter, and then I want item dot ID equals to ID, and I want all the items that are not equal to the ID and to insert them into the new item. So that's an insert, that's the lead. Let's talk about an update. Export function update item, which is an item that is an item type, and items dot, and then we want to update. So const core item, or we can just say item index equals to items dot find index. Then I'll do item. I'll just call it a better name. Item 2. New item. And let's just say we'll say new item, and then it should be here, item dot ID equals to new item dot ID. Now I have the index, and I can say that items at item index equals to new item. And that replace it by the pointer. Now, just to make sure that it works, and that's how you can verify that it works. If I would have, this is the console, it have basic JavaScript things. So I have, for example, x, which is an array that has 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. I do x at 2 equals to 5. And then I'll do x, and then it completely updated the array. That's how we would like to do it. So we have an insert. Done, 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 done. Now let's just talk about getting a specific item. Well, specific item is pretty simple. It's an export function, find one, of an item by an ID of an item, which is string. And then I'll say items dot item dot find, and it should find me an item. So item dot id equals to id const item equals to items and return item. Cool. We returned the item. We did the find one, return the item. Okay, that was with all the information. Now here it's gonna get a bit tricky because you need to define all the items and the partial information. Let's just say there is another field named description. Description. And we don't want to show the description. We don't care about it, and usually it might fill up the page. Or also there is multiple images and we just want to show the first image. So how would you define a partial item type? So I'm going to say partial item equals to, and I'm going to say it has an ID. I need to see at least ID, name, and price and image. Price is a number, and image, which is image, which is a string. Now it's not great because these two types are completely removed from one another. However, they are pretty helpful when you want to move forward and when you want to move quickly. There is a better way to do it using items. If you're curious, just write it down in the chat. So let's talk about what does it need to return. But first of all, are these an async functions? They should be an async function, but right now, since we are running within the runtime of Node.js, it should just be whatever. Okay. Find one. And I want export function. I want find all. Now, as you can see here, since we're both returning partial information, we can return all the items or some of the items if they have the same functionality. So find all, and now I can define a filter on it. So meaning that find all would have a filter, and it should look like an object. Let's just say for now it's an object. And let's just say for now I can filter only by name. Whatever. Let's just say I have items by multiple names. But if I didn't write filter, which I don't have to, it will return absolutely everything. So if filter, then I would like to filter. Else, I want to return all the items. When you're working with databases, it's very common to not return all the items, but to have a proper pagination to the items inside of your screen. Because if you have 10,000 items, render and even send 10,000 items via the internet is just too much. So you would limit the amount of items. However, you would provide a link toward the next items in the list. Would that provide you with decent pagination? Okay. Now, how are we going to filter? Well, if I have filter, then I just need to return items dot filter, and I want to filter in a very specific manner. I have the item dot, I'll just say name equals to name, or filter dot name. Okay, I think that works. Now, do you need the else? Definitely not. The prettier way to do it, you can do it in multiple ways. It's to define items, partial items to returns, which is a partial item kind of thing, which absolutely empty, and just define it here and return it somewhere else. Now, you must be wondering, I've written now too many lines, right? I had here the return, I had the return, and I didn't have to define a new variable to it. So why did I work so hard to define it that way? There are two reasons. One, if I will completely return the items themselves, I will not be able to console log it, and debugging it will be kind of clunky. Two, the style that I've used is there are two styles, just continuation and early bailout. Early bailout suggests that once you return something, you don't need to write the else. It's no longer necessary. So I don't need to write the else now, but right now I do, and I'll just pass it along like this, and it's easier for me now to console log it here, and we'll console log every items to return. That's it. That's the preference. It's slightly more code, but it works. Now, and that sort of lays out for me the items backend development style. So I identified something within an e-commerce site, which is items, and I also identified some functionalities that you're able to create on top of an item. And I also identify not only the items that I need to return, but now I need to connect them to the route and to see that they actually work. Now, the really wise of you might have noticed that I did something really stupid here. Is that I've returned a filter from the items, but it does not return an actual partial items. It returns a whole items. Even though the compiler might suggest that you return a partial items, at the runtime, the items that will return will not be partial items. It will be full-on blown items. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's a very bad thing. Because normally you should able to track whatever you're returning. Right now, I haven't explicitly filtered any of the specific items inside, or any specific keys from the items inside. So I should have filtered out image 2 and description. And I didn't do that because I was lazy or didn't want to. So I need now to fix it. And that's another good example for now you need to fix shit. So I need to say const items filtered. I need to return, first of all, it's not partial items, it's item. It's an item array, and I'll say custom items to return items filtered items. Filtered items, and now I have the items to return, which equals to filtered items dot map item, and then I'll say, well, okay, this needs to return a new object that it is almost everything, but I want the name, which is item dot name. I should have the ID, or I can do it even simpler. I can say something like, but it means writing things down. I want the ID, I want the name, I want the price, and I want the image price. And then I'll return the ID, the name, the price, the image. Ta-da! And now it returns the partial item. That will also work. And that works actually better. Normally speaking, you would have a database that will allow you to filter some of the information that you want to return. Okay, well, I have a bunch of information right now. How would I connect them to my server? That's pretty simple. I've created here the items route. The items route gets a slash. Now I need to know if I'm getting a single item or multiple items. Well, that's easy to check. If we're getting anything, we can use the query param to find something that is single. If it's single in any other way or form, then I would like to run something using the controller that I've created so far here. So import item controller from, it should be dot slash controller slash item controller, and it might be pissed, so I'll do as. So now I can do, it can be like this, and I can say if single, if I would like to retrieve a single item, then I want to find one that, and I also need to find the ID. So it should be an ID, generate ID. If it's single, then I want the ID here. Single. Oh, I didn't read. No. Okay. If it's single, I want to find the ID, and I want to search for it. And since I sort of know it needs to be a string, so I'm going to write here as string. Later on, we'll make it way better, because right now it just look bad. And I'm going to I'm going to say cons item. And then I'm going to need to return it. So rest return rest dot send. I can say status, I want to return 200, and I want to send. Well, I need to be explicit. I want to return a JSON that returns the item. And for the other case, when it's not single, I want to get the filter and get the pieces of information relevant to the filter. So I need to have const filter that should look something like an object. It should have something like request.query.name, but since it needs to look like an object, then I'll do the transformation here. Name is filter, and then I need to say const items equals to item controller dot find all using filter. Now, I need to also condition what happens if, first of all, I'm assuming as string here, but I'll also assume that request.query.name, when query.name is defined, I want this, rest I want to be undefined. And then I need to return here the same thing that I returned here. And instead of items, write items. So that's the get. That's a get. What happens if I didn't find anything? That's the first thing we need to ask ourselves, because we're starting with an empty array. So I'm trying to find a single item. Well, then it should return null, because I didn't find anything here. And in this case, it should be an empty array. So let's just see what's happening. First of all, I want to get all the items. All the items is an empty array. Cool. I want to get a specific item, which is single, which equals to true, doesn't matter. And now I'm getting absolutely nothing. What? What happened here? Oh, I got a transform failed to error. And it says that I failed somewhere. Let's see. items.route.ts. It might have tried to return something that it could not handle, like our trusty old friend null. So if I write here an item, and I'll run this query again, I got here an undefined. And an undefined is definitely not null. So I can do something like that. I can do something like null here, and I can do something like null here. Okay. But wait, you might ask yourself, well, what just happened? Well, I tried to get the single item, but I got an undefined because I tried to find an item that did not exist inside of the array. And because of that, when I'm trying to parse as JSON something that is undefined, then I'm going to get slapped. So yeah, that's what happened essentially. Good. But now I'm not getting stopped because null is a valid JSON object, even though it's a lack of an object. Okay. But all of this is fun and all, but I don't want to look at nulls and empty arrays. It's not that interesting. I want to do stuff. I want to create an item. Now you're talking. So items route dot post. I want to the same route, and I want to request response. And yeah. Now, there are multiple ways to write a post function. You can return the new item. You can return just success or failure. For the sake of just doing stuff, I'm just going to return the new item, the items that was expected to return. Okay, const, and I want to say I need to get the item. Where should the item be? Request.body. And it should look something like this item. And it's going to look something like item. Now, what that I did there was to export the item out, so I can say to the body that it needs to look like it. Cool. So now I have the body. It has to be as the body. And now I'll do const, and I want to add it. So it should be item controller dot insert item, and return item. Oh, should I be response dot send status 200 dot send item. Okay. Oh, wait, nothing happened. Well, I didn't create a post request to it. I didn't create a postman request to it. Let's do a postman request. Where's my postman? I want my postman. There we go. Come here. Come here. Show yourself to the audience. Okay. Post, but not of user, but of items. And then the body should look something like, well, it should have an ID. Should it have an ID? No, it doesn't need to have an ID because I'll generate the ID on my own. But for now, let's just say I am passing it an ID. Some ID. Now, if you're not aware of what this software is Postman. It allows you to write requests to anyone. Let's just say I'm selling jewelries. I want to do something simpler. Just say I'm tech. I don't want to sell USB because that's the only thing I know how to spell in English. And it needs to have an price, and the price should be $20, whatever, should be 20. And it should have an image, should be a URL image. And it should have another image, which is another image. And it should be image and image 2. And it should have a description. $20 zettabyte USB. That's a lot of zettabytes. That's a lot of bytes. Okay. Send. Nice. I got 200. But I didn't get the item back. Even though I sort of should. What happened here? Well, I'm still getting the same arrow. Oh, maybe it's not the same arrow. Let me try again. Since we've started the server from a new, the post request didn't do anything. So now if I'll try to get the items, cannot deconstruct ID of undefined as it is undefined. Interesting. But did it work though? If I did the console log item. Oh, because first of all, I said send instead of JSON. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that it tried to deconstruct something and it wasn't very successful at doing so. Oh, but I'm confused slightly. Okay. Well, now I'm trying to get all the items, and it sort of said that it couldn't do anything. Why is that? Well, because I'm trying to deconstruct an item using an ID, and it said that the ID did not exist within the object that I've written down. So wait, something here is not right. Ah, I know. How about the information that I put inside? How does it look? Let's look at the console log. Ah, it turns out as undefined. Well, that silly thing is a problem known as JSON parsing. When you have a request that comes as a JSON, you need to make sure that it has the proper headers to use. So express.json will just verify that the information that you are receiving, and you are receiving it as JSON, will be proper. And now we get the entire information. And what do they get? We'll see the information back. Isn't that lovely? But for the most skewed person here, you probably notice something very weird. First of all, I'm writing here the ID. When you're writing an e-commerce site, I don't know if you ever did Amazon dropshipping, you don't write the ID, or at least the Amazon ID, but Amazon generated the ID for you. So there is a difference of how you insert an item and how the item should be generated. Namely, ID should never exist inside when you insert it, but it should exist when you update it, when you delete it, and especially when you get it. So I need to sort of change the method so ID will always exist and will be overridden to whatever I want and on whatever the user wants. Okay, how are we going to do that? First of all, the item needs to be inserted. So the way I'm gonna do it, I'm just gonna write. I'm kidding. I'm just gonna make sure to overwrite it. What values should be the ID? There is a very useful package named to be UUID. It's a very useful package. It allows you to create a UUIDs in a jiffy. And I'm gonna install it because that's namely what you would use. It doesn't have to be UUID. It could be any other thing that you want, but UUID might work here. So pnpm I want to install UUID and probably types for the UUID. I believe it needs types. Okay, and then I write v4, and now it will generate a new ID every time, regardless if the user put its own imported its own ID inside the server. Okay. Oh, and also I closed the server, so npm run dev. Cool. I have an empty array. I have here the ID. Now notice I'm not getting here the ID back. That's also a thing that we need to be reminded of. But when I'm doing the get, I am getting the ID, and it's a very scrambled ID. Again, multiple ways to solve it. You can use an incremented ID, which is a solution. You can use a UUID, which is another solution. Hell, there are many ways to solve it, but these are the most common ways. Either to increment it or to UUID it. Both are fine. Normally, you would use the UUID. Okay. As you might notice, I didn't get back the item that I was inserting, which is very annoying. In order for me to do that, I need to either get the pushed item, or I'll just return the new item. Both work, both are fine. I prefer to create here const new item, which is the mapped item that I have here. Yes. Oh, thank you, my wife. My lovely wife. Okay. And I want to get everything inside this bracket. I want to put it here, new item, and I wanted to return the new item. Now, if I'm returning the new item from the insert that was written down here, const new item, I need to return the new item here. And these will be completely new. And now when I send, I'm getting here the UID right in the end. And it doesn't matter if you'll write your own UUID. If I write here any sort of ID, like just say this one, some ID, it will still generate my own UUID. Fantastic. And if I'll do get, I get it. I get them. Okay. We did get. We did insert. Now let's talk about update. Update is kind of weird because in update you have two methods that you can use. Namely, you can use put and you can use patch. And the item potency for the patch one is sort of wonky and defined by whoever wants to define it. So I'm gonna skip it for now and just completely implement the delete function, which is very simple. It's pretty much the same thing we did so far. Spawns, const, and I want to get the ID, which equals to request.query.id, and I want to delete the ID and return to 100 of the item was deleted successfully. So item controller dot delete item. I want to delete item. As you can see, it's by ID, so ID, and I will say for now that I know it's string. And that's pretty much it. Status 200, and that's pretty much it. I don't have to return anything, I can just do that. So since I restarted the server, I have to send it to 100. This is the new ID that I've got, so I need to use the ID. I will do a delete option. I will write the ID here. I'll get the same method right here. I'll say ID equals to, and yeah, and should just return 200. I didn't use send here, so it got stuck. Okay. Again, nothing happened because, well, there was nothing to delete. I tried again. Let me get the ID. Let's see first of all if the ID exists. Yes, it does. And now I'll just run quickly the delete. It worked. And it removed it from the array. Mazel tov. Now we have everything except the update. And the update should be kind of straightforward. The same way. Items route dot patch. I'll say put. Put is fine. Or patch, put, okay. Really doesn't matter. It's whatever you decide with your team and whatever works for your team the best. Because I'm doing put, it has to have a body, and it's pretty similar to the post. But instead of inserting an item, I need to have two things. I need to update an item, but I need the ID to exist within the item. So update. Oh, misspelled update. Update item. And now it updates the item. It doesn't need to return anything. And it can return the updated item. Okay. Okay, so now let's try to do a post. Let's see if the item is here. We'll do a put. And we'll need a body, so it'll be raw JSON. We'll put it here, but it should be whatever item I gotten back, not whatever item I did here, because we need the ID. And instead of USB, let's just call it floppy, because we all miss the floppy disks. Guys, if you're not missing the floppy disk, I don't know what you are made of. Floppy, the same material that floppy used. Okay, now I have here this item, but I made a mistake and I need to change. Instead of the USB, I need to have here something else. I need to have here the floppy. And I'm running the update and I'm getting an error. How dare it? Let's see what happened. First of all, update item is not a function. Well, I kind of deserve that, changing the function at this last second. And also not saving the piece of information. So we're going to do it again. Quickly though. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yep. And now an update. And now it was updated successfully to USB. So I just changed it to floppy. And now it's floppy. Is it floppy? It is a floppy. And that's pretty much the basic when you try to create an e-commerce website. That's the basic for the items. Now, as a homework, I would like you to create some of the other functionalities that you might need, not only for the items, but for the shopping cart. It should be very simple. And as long as you're sticking to the guide, you should be 100% great. Okay? If you have any questions, please let me know. And I'm going to talk to you guys later.